going to start the recording in 3, 2, 1. This is the Surly Grognards for October 30th, 2012.
It's
Happy Halloween, guys! Well, just about Halloween.
tomorrow's Halloween.
Yeah, I guess so. As always, this is Peter Bowman, joined by my good friend Eric Carlson. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Hey, what's up? How's everybody doing?
Survived the hurricane,
Yeah,
which isn't that hard to give it where we are, but
here in Boston, we really just got a mild breeze and a shower, but
oh, actually, it was pretty windy up here.
it was pretty damn windy. I am exaggerating, of course.
There was a fair bit of wind, wind, and some rain. It's raining again right now, but I lost power for maybe an hour yesterday, around about hour and a half, somewhere in there.
The power grid where I am is so dense that you could blow up 3 transformers and we'd still be fine. Oh, and stop last year when we had that freak blizzard that blew up the transformer on my street, and I lost power for 3 days.
That's good.
Yeah. It was like me and 2 other houses. That's how dense it is. You lose a whole transformer, and only 3 houses are affected.
Damn. But yeah, for anybody listening who's in the affected areas or anything that were harder hit, if you get a chance to hear us, our thoughts go out to you guys. We hope you guys
boys
pull through.
Jersey, New York, hang in there.
Yeah, please.
You
God.
hit hard.
Whew. Yeah, that was from seeing some of the stuff on that was
Yeah.
Ooh. But we're not going to talk about that for much today because that's not the type of show we are.
Nope, and we're instead going to talk about much more interesting things that are all about escaping reality.
Indeed.
Which you guys could use.
So we're going to do a bit of a multi-topic show this week because we really didn't come up with anything that we thought would cover a full show. But
we wanted to do something relatively Halloween-y given the
timing of the show.
Yes.
So we're going to start things off by talking about horror in games and other aspects of geek culture. And from there, we're going to go on to a topic that was suggested to us in the chat a little while ago. So we're talking about what to do if you've got a group of role players and no game master. Yeah. So we're going to start things off with horror, though. Eric, this is more your show than mine, really.
Yeah.
I'm not big into the horror genre, so.
Here's the thing: horror is really, as we've stated before, horror is really hard to do in an RPG because you got all the stuff right there in the book, so you can look it up, which is much harder to do in an actual horror situation. So a lot of doing it requires everyone to be on the same page and be actively trying to do it properly. This more than anything else requires requires the players to be on board and want to do it also.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's really hard to do, but really rewarding when it's done properly. And I've played in a few games that are not explicitly horror themed, but horror was a recurring atmosphere.
Okay.
I immediately jumped back to the Dark Heresy game, which is the most recent one where it was a major theme. Because it's Warhammer 40k and you're playing flunkies for the Inquisition, so pretty much everything that can go wrong will. But a big part of it is just you need to build on the atmosphere, and what helps a lot is actually where you're playing. It's really hard to get into a horror game when you're in a nice bright lit kitchen with someone shouting, "Where's the Mountain Dew?" from the kitchen. So one suggestion is just move it out of a public space, presuming you have roommates. Like move it into like someone's bedroom, or if you're lucky enough to have your own place, get a dimmer switch for your lights.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, you'd be amazed how much just turning the lighting down will help you get into the mood.
Okay.
It's and keeping you got to keep the players in the dark when you're running it though. I've never had any success running horror. Whenever I run horror, it turns into Friday the 13th as opposed to Silent Hill 2. One of the bad Friday the 13ths. Right, it just turns into your standard hack and slash. But yeah, like be very descriptive in a vague way. Is the best thing I can say. Like, make sure the players know how things sound and smell and how poor their visibility is or isn't. But at the same time, don't spell anything out.
Right.
Absolutely, don't spell anything out. Like, all right, you're walking down the corridor. The fluorescent lights are flickering as fluorescent lights do, but it's eerily quiet and there's some smell in the air. You can't quite place it. Just under the anti something just hovering underneath the antiseptic and stench of a recently cleaned hallway is a ticking noise behind you,
Right.
like something clicking on the linoleum. But there's nothing there. Do something like that, and I just did a poor job of it. But
Right.
yes, do like Lovecraft. Barely describe your elder chores. The player's own. When you actually come up against the Gribbly, assuming there's a Gribbly, players' own imaginations are their worst enemies. Let,
Absolutely.
yeah, give them just enough to get a vague outline as to what's going on, and let them fill in the details.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've done that before. I mean,
Mm,
as I said in an earlier episode, we talked about the couple of sessions in the sci-fi game I was running with you guys for a while, with on the planet with the abandoned colony and such,
mm.
where you guys are being chased by the monster, being chased by the
The space spiders.
yeah,
Or
and I was
space,
deliberately vague with virtually everything I did with them, for exactly that reason.
yeah. Even if they have a good look at it, just give them an outline of it and let them fill in the details. Half the time they would even notice if you do it right. And yes, always make sure you say cyclopean at least once per session when you're doing a horror game.
Ineffable's another good word. Thank you, Peter.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely keeping descriptions vague, using somewhat arcane terminology helps, just because it's kind of fun. It's fun. I mean, is the thing.
Oh yeah.
And
The Mutants Mastermind game. I'm having loads of fun throwing together random magical techno babble.
yeah, that's been amusing. But yeah, it's as we sort of touched on when we were talking about genres in general. The big thing about running a horror game in general is it's almost entirely about atmosphere more than anything else.
Yeah.
And capturing that's tricky, but as Eric pointed out, but it really can pay off. As I said, I've never run a full-fledged horror campaign, but I've used horror elements in games I've run for a change of pace, which is where I personally think it works best. But that's a personal preference thing.
It, honestly, suddenly doing a horror story arc in what has been a happy, cheery, light-hearted romp is the best way to do it because suddenly everything seems wrong somehow, and that does more for it than anything else.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Especially if as long as you don't just drop it out of nowhere, that change in tone actually, I think, actually really does help a game. It's a good change of pace. It keeps things moving, and it gives the players sort of when they're done with it, they sort of have that feeling of, oh, thank God, we can go back to our normal
Yeah,
stuff. I mean, that's sort of the whole reason that Ravenloft exists in D&D.
Yeah.
is for exactly that sort of thing. It's that you can drop your players into a horrible, awful situation which their only goal is to escape with their lives. And that's why that's literally the rise and decay of Ravenloft. I mean,
And it works pretty damn well.
yeah, done right, it works brilliantly.
This is why so many horror games are best when done as one-offs or as short
Yeah,
campaigns.
I agree.
Like, I couldn't imagine doing more than 5 sessions of, say, Call of Cthulhu and have it maintain what makes Call of Cthulhu great.
Yeah, I know of people who've run long-running Cthulhu campaigns, and I think part of it there is it takes a certain mindset for the players too. If
Absolutely.
if you're going into it, planning on doing a Call of Cthulhu campaign, you let things happen to your character that you probably wouldn't sort of want to have. You wouldn't let happen in a normal campaign. And I have to imagine there's a fair bit of turnover in the characters over time, but
Well, every time you find out what's actually going on, you lose sanity. So,
yeah, but but yeah, there's that. But I mean, the thing is that you do have some resources to if you're doing a longer game to get back into the get yourself back some of your sanity at least.
I suppose so, yeah.
Spending
You can
time,
always commit yourself, I suppose.
yeah.
Um, but the hard thing with horror is keeping it from becoming an episode of CSI when you're going for an episode of the X-Files.
Okay.
And that's largely where the players need to come in. I say that because CSI is a procedural. It's all about the finding the crime and figuring out the solution and uh, catching the perp. Like, you don't even need to include anything supernatural but and still do a horror story. Um, you just need to treat it more like an episode of X-Files. And you need the players on board for that. Uh, it's that's I can't stress that enough. You need the players on board, even if they don't know they are. And like I said, that was one of the great things about what Peter did with the Sci-Fi GURPS game, was that it was up to that point pretty much light-hearted space pirate romp, and then everything seemed wrong, and things got more wrong, and then we realized how boned we were, and that's the moment you're going for right
Yep.
there.
It was. And I think it worked out pretty well. And you
I,
guys
I I thought it was great.
ended up
It
deciding
scared us so badly we jumped right out of the campaign.
pretty much. I mean, you guys were. It's technically the same campaign world going on, same characters with
Right.
different game with Chris running it, but and me playing, but it's a different campaign now.
Yeah, now we're the friggin' rebellion.
It's like ooh, yeah. Chris kind of has turned this into a bit of a Star Wars game, hasn't he?
Chris, Star Wars never.
Oh God. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm having fun, but it's just interesting seeing how different the game is. I mean,
Oh
it's a
yeah.
given that it's a different game master.
Oh no, it's a entirely different game now, and whatever. It actually extended my interest in the character for a while because I had actually been growing bored with my character.
Yeah.
Partially because he's so entirely one note, which is my own fault.
Yep. But so from there do you have any other thoughts on horror RPGs, Eric?
Oh, geez. The problem is like sitting down and talking about it. I love playing in them. I love playing in a well done horror session
Right.
or RPG, but because so much of it depends on the game master, and it's not something I'm terribly experienced with. Is the problem. Game mastering is not horror. I'm actually Blah, words.
Yeah.
I can never seem to get the tone right. It always devolves into Jason X. Devolves into a farce as opposed to an actual horror story.
Okay, I gotcha. I can see that. Yeah. I mean, I know for a fact I couldn't keep up a horror tone for longer than a few sessions.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'll get bored of it.
I yeah, I get the haunted house I ran for the Iron Kingdoms game I was running was probably my most successful one.
Okay.
Um, and I made sure that got resolved right before it became a farce.
Well, there you go.
um, and that was because it only lasted like 3 sessions. The idea being that the players are in this town. For those that don't know, Iron Kingdoms is a steampunk fantasy world, and they're in this town, and people have been disappearing. So, as players are wont to do, they took it upon themselves to investigate. And the trail of breadcrumbs I left them led them up to a big spooky mansion. Go figure. A big isolated spooky mansion on the edge of town.
Right. Ooh, spooky.
And over the course of the 3 sessions, I had them find like horrible scientific necromantic the results of failed horrible necromantic scientific experimentation. Um, had them fight some of the spookier monsters that exist in Iron Kingdoms, including Bane Thralls, which they defeated with dynamite. Should never let them have that.
But explosives are so much fun, Eric.
I know, and I never should have let them have dynamite. Well, that did yield one of the best lines in the entire game, and the entire campaign. They needed to make more dynamite, and all they had was gunpowder. So one of the players like dashed into town, ran up to the butcher's like, "I need all your butcher paper." Why? For more dynamite, of course.
Aha.
I thought it was hilarious.
It's
I
good.
didn't.
Oh, it's a good line. Don't get me wrong. I'm just sort of envisioning the poor shopkeeper's face. Just
Exactly.
what?
But it ended them with them discovering exactly what was going on, which was the former owner, well, still technically owner of the mansion, was an old necromancer and infernalist,
Okay.
and he knew his contract was coming up. And in order to prevent it from coming up, he needed to build a new body because the infernals had left the mark on his body, so that they could find him to collect the contract.
Right.
So he's trying to build a new body out of parts of other people, all Frankenstein style.
Right.
And they eventually find the warded chamber where he has set himself up in a sort of a cryo tube, controlling his minions mentally. And then they broke the cryo tube, and things went poorly for the necromancer, not for the players.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
get the hell out when the infernal showed up.
That was probably a good idea on their part.
Yes.
So did you end with that whole sort of great image of like the sort of like the mansion collapsing in on itself as the Infernals took the bad guy away?
Oh no, what happened was all the lights went out, and they just hear a conversation, and then screaming, and then they left.
That was smart of them.
Again, that whole don't show them anything. Let them fill in the details.
Right. So that's I guess we could say from that one of the better I guess one of the best things is that horror RPGs probably is best used as a change of pace within a given campaign.
Yes.
Um, you can run a horror campaign if you want to, and you might have more success than either of us have had doing it. But I think almost any campaign can take some benefit from using some of the tropes from a horror game or some horror movies and such. And
Good survival horror video games are excellent inspiration, honestly.
yep, absolutely.
I can't talk more highly about Silent Hill 2 for inspiration.
Yeah, And
That
so,
across that sort of sense of something's very wrong, and that sort of creeping dread.
so yeah. Speaking of that, Eric, I think you've probably played more of those sort of horror style games than or video games than I have. Are there any other than Silent Hill 2? Are there any that stand out to you?
Resident Evil 2 also. I have to go old school, honestly. I've heard very good things about Slender. But honestly, I've been watching Marble Hornets on YouTube, which also involves the Slender Man, and I don't think I can take a double dose of that. um, I've heard good things about Dead Space that despite it being jump scare the game, they do a really good job of building you up for the jump scares, which is half of horror.
Right.
um,
Yeah. Good. Yeah. That definitely. As an aside, back to sort of the RPG topic. Build up is key.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with a jump scare as long as you do it right. Do it poorly, it's like, oh look, it's another cat. Do it right, you know something's there. Something's creeping up on you. You can't see it, you can't hear it, but you know it's there. And then have it jump them.
But yeah. I think one of my favorite lines that I've used in that I've used it more than once in different games. But the whole, you see something out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn to look, there's nothing there.
Mm.
Is one of my favorite lines to use in any sort of situation where I'm trying to get that feel. Um, and I use that liberally in the sci-fi game, which we talked about earlier.
Mm.
Um, and sort of that effect is hard. I would imagine be hard to pull off in a video game, but I guess you could sort of do it.
You can do it. Oh, Fatal Frame was a good one also.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things about that one.
Fatal Frame was actually pretty damn good because the idea is you're trapped in a house with a camera. The house is filled with hungry ghosts. The camera is the only thing that will stop them long enough for you to get away.
Yep. I've seen someone doing a playthrough of it. Might have been Juario, actually, when I think about it.
Mm.
Yeah, it was. And part of the fun of that was watching his reactions because he's admittedly kind of a wuss when it comes to horror stuff.
My first exposure to a proper horror game was actually I was couch surfing at the time, and at the time I was staying with my friend Quinn, and he had just gotten Silent Hill 2. So we'd been chatting and talking, and then it'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning. We're like, well, let's try this game out. So we sit down, he's playing the game, and we're watching, and there comes a point where you're, like the first 10 minutes of the game, you come to a crossroads in Silent Hill. And there's bloody tracks of something being dragged away down one road. And we had been spooked out enough by what had been going on at this point that we decided to go the opposite direction. And the game made us go in that direction. How did the game? I think what the game did was that we went the opposite direction on the street, and when because the way the game is, you go running off to the next screen. It put us right back in the screen with the bloody tracks again. Because Silent Hill will warp your perceptions, so you do what the town wants you to.
Cool, cool. I've not played any Silent Hill games. As I said, I'm not a big horror genre guy, so um, I'm trying to think. I played a few. I played one or two horror games. I played a couple of games that are ostensibly horror, but really aren't. Yeah, looking at you, Left 4 Dead 2.
Left 4 Dead 2 it's definitely not horror.
No.
There's nothing creepy about it. It's a big fat shoot 'em up, except you get to shoot zombies.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
There are plenty of startle moments in it when a special infected leaps out of nowhere and you go, oh God! And you will often get sort of a bit freaked out by the timing of the tanks,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really a horror game. But though it purports to be one, it
Although
claims it's survival horror. It's not.
when it comes to film, I really prefer horror devolving into farce than I do actual real horror.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite movies are actual real life horror movies. The Thing being an excellent example.
Well, The Thing's a brilliant movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. 'Cause it's all about the study of paranoia.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're gonna want to go, if you want to talk about like classic horror, then you've got Hitchcock was the master of it, in my personal opinion.
Hitchcock actually has a great line about suspense that works well for horror. Boredom is watching two people have a conversation about nothing. Suspense is watching two people have a conversation about nothing. There's a bomb under the table.
Right.
And you can easily paraphrase that for horror. Horror is watching two people have a conversation about nothing, and they don't see what's behind them.
Right. Exactly. But I mean, like the original Psycho is a brilliant movie. The Birds.
Yep.
Oh God. Whole bunch of stuff.
Vertigo is a great one also.
Which one? Oh, Vertigo. Yeah, that's more of a thriller than a horror movie. But yeah.
But it has enough elements of it that could easily be translated into horror.
Oh, sure. I mean, Hitchcock was brilliant. I mean, let's be honest.
The guy knew his shit.
Yeah.
But
Oh God.
it's just so much fun. I mean, Jason X, that movie's hilarious. Evil Dead 2, that's a legitimately creepy movie in parts, with other parts where it's just fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, not a big fan of the horror genre, but
Fair enough.
I have a fair bit of respect for what Raimi did with that because he saw what the people were finding. They saw that people were.
Oh yeah, no, Evil Dead 2 is a great movie. It's a great film, to use the big art house term, because it is.
I mean, the big thing is that he saw how people were reacting to Evil Dead, so he decided to remake it and actually intentionally go for comedy in parts of it, as opposed to unintentional comedy
Right.
in the original. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of anything else that we could sort of talk about horror-wise in sort of gaming and or sort of. I mean, there've been a few other places where you can sort of see. You can see sort of horror popping up here and there in other genres of stuff. I mean,
Right.
there's a period of time where where there was Marvel was trying to do, like, the comic book companies were trying to do some horror stuff, and with limited degrees of success. I mean, there are good. I mean,
Yeah,
Linkara's been doing a whole series of videos this month on horror comic books. I've read none of the ones he's done reviews of, so I can't
I've
really
read
comment.
some of them. 30 Days of Night is actually a great horror story that did not translate to film well at all. And not because it's well written, because the artwork is what sells it.
Okay.
The I can't remember the artist's name, but like the guy has this sort of washed-out painterly feel to everything, and the hollow, blasted looks in people's eyes throughout the comic.
Mm-hmm.
Like the I have seen so much that I am dead inside look that you will see in some of the people is what really sells it.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, yeah. If you're looking for horror comic books, check out Linkara's Long Box of the Damned series.
Mm.
There's some good stuff in there. Trying to think of anything else we can sort of touch on in horror other than
You know what, we hit most of it in the genre thing,
yeah.
In the genre episode, and problem with horror, it's tough to talk about. It's really better to experience it.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to analyze. I mean, it's not hard to analyze, but it's hard to analyze constructively, I guess.
I suppose so. Yeah, it's and we're not experts in this kind
No,
of
dear Lord, no.
thing. I'm a fan, but that doesn't mean I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Man,
Right.
I'm foul-mouthed tonight.
All right, so I guess we can move from one type of horror to another, and talk a little bit about what you can do when you're a player. You've got a bunch of people together who want to be players in an RPG, and you have no game master, which is a pretty terrifying situation for some people, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
And it's sort of a little tricky for me to talk about, just due to the fact that I'm the guy who ends up game mastering most of the time. So,
Right, right.
uh, but sort of there are things you can do when you're in that situation. I mean, there's the what I consider to be the obvious answer, but it doesn't work for everybody for obvious reasons, which
You
is
gotta
put on your
play the
big
game
boy
yourself.
pants and run a goddamn game yourself.
Yeah, there is that. Problem is, some people are just terrible game masters.
Oh, sure.
And I try. I'm not very good at it. More importantly, I don't enjoy it. So
That is the big thing. If you don't enjoy the actual running a game, then it's not going to be as good. That's definitively true.
yeah,
You're going to be better at anything you enjoy doing. You're going to be you're probably going to end up being better at. I I will say that part of the people say, I'm a terrible game master, and I don't want to do it because I'm bad at it. I'm a little bit less sympathetic towards that than I think
you
some people
you
would
will
be.
get good if you try, just like with anything else.
The more practice you
Problem
have at, the
is,
better
I
you'll
have
get.
no motivation because I don't enjoy it.
Well, absolutely. That's the thing. Is if you don't enjoy it and you won't have the motivation to get good at it, and that's fine. There's a difference between being not enjoying game mastering and saying you'll never be good at it because you're quote a bad game master. Um, and if you've never done it before, for God's sakes, try it.
Yeah, seriously, do
Especially
not
if your
get
group is going,
against
oh
it.
wow, we don't have a game master. What can we do? If you've not run a game before, give it a shot. I mean, you
You
might
might find
enjoy it.
you might find you like it. In which case, you'll have another person, another designated game master.
Yeah.
You'll give your primary one a break, which he will probably need.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Eric. Oh, I've been so enjoying this past couple of months where I've been running only one game as opposed to three. Oh, it's glorious. But yeah. So I mean, that's the first thing is that as I said, put your big boy pants on and run a game yourself. The other option, which I think is, I think might be worth trying with the right group with some groups, is the notion of doing a troop style game, which is what I think I may have mentioned this before, but conceptually what that is that you basically everybody has a player character and you take turns running adventures for the running the game basically. You come up with a common game world that you sort of all sort of contribute to, and then you basically you run you one session, one for one adventure. One player is running it as the game master, and the other players play their characters and they do the thing. And then the next session, the next adventure, it's someone else's turn to run an adventure, and other players play their characters and so on. Now you need to sort of structure the game a little bit differently in that you need a good
It needs to
reason.
be episodic.
It will be it'll be mostly episodic, yes. Um, but the big thing is that you definitively need some way to work characters in and out of the story because it does. While you can have the game master have his character along as an NPC, I do think it helps. It does help to not have to do that. Uh,
This is much easier to do in some genres than others.
Absolutely, definitively. But I mean, a few
In
examples.
some settings, it's a lot easier to do if you're playing in a city than it is out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. But yeah, some prime examples of that. Ars Magica was designed as as a troop style game. So every player has their mage. They have a couple of companions that they play, and there's the pool of grogs for everybody. And then one person runs a game, runs an adventure for one character's mage. Then two other people play the companions, and then everybody else plays the grogs. The next time, it's someone else's mage's story's turn, and so on. And you change up game masters. And then you occasionally have sessions where everyone's playing their mage and just sort of debate things, what's going on for the I forget the term, the tribunal, I guess is the term I think, in the actual game,
The council
or the council,
of.
sure, or whatever you want to
Well,
call.
I was going to come with something flippant and silly, and then I lost it.
But yeah, basically, you've got to set. You occasionally have sessions where everyone's playing their mage and are debating what the group as a whole is going to be up to coming up going forward, which will then lead to more story ideas for everyone else to run games on. And you can sort of take that format and adapt it to other games too. I had a notion for a troop-style feng shui game where the players all had characters that were part of an organization and that sort of vaguely Men in Blackish, and basically, so the each adventure would be a group of the player characters would be sent out to go do something, which would be run by that one game master, and everybody else play their characters. And then the next session would be a different mix of the group of characters being sent on a different mission, and so on. And you rotate GMs that way. Um,
I remember someone. It was a plan that never got off the ground, but it was a grand and cool plan. Someone wanted to run a game in the style of sort of the classic '80s anime like Robotech and Star Blazers and the like. So he had everyone make up several characters for this idea, and then everyone would it would be a big troop thing. But it fell apart when everyone started discussing what they actually wanted the game to be about. Because you had one guy that wanted the doll to be about the obligatory giant fleet battles. I wanted to be mecha drama. Someone else wanted to do a fantasy thing, and never got off the ground because we never quite agree on what we wanted to do.
right. And our friend Peter Shaw in the chat basically says Force 5 the RPG campaign. That's not a horrible idea in some ways.
It's not a terrible idea, actually.
For those who don't know, Force 5 was something that I don't know if it happened in other parts of the country, but here in the Boston area, one of the local UHF channels, what they did is they took a bunch of different, they got licenses to a bunch of different sort of generally giant robot themed anime series. And what they did is they rotated through them one day a week. So, Mondays was one show, Tuesdays was another show, Wednesdays was another show, Thursdays was another show, and Fridays was a fifth show. And that's what they do that every so each day would be a different particular show.
You know what was terrible? I remember that when I was like very little, and I really loved one of the shows, and wasn't terribly fond of the others, and got really pissed off every afternoon that it wasn't on.
I actually liked a couple of the ones on there. If I remember correctly, the lineup was Guy King, uh, Grandizer, Dangard Ace, Starvengers, King, Dangard Ace, Starvengers, Grandizer, and Jason the Space Cateers. That being the weak link of the five.
Yeah.
The other four were
W
all had things to recommend them, in my opinion.
remember WLVI briefly did something where they're alternating episodes of Star Blazers and Robotech. And that really annoyed me because I just wanted to watch my fucking Robotech.
Yes, that would annoy me because I would have wanted to watch my Star Blazers.
Exactly.
But yeah, one other thought you can do, back to the sort of, instead of doing a troop style game, is if you've got two people who are willing to, multiple people are willing to run a game, like two or three at most, I would say, uh, is instead of doing it troop style, is you could have two campaigns and basically alternate week to week or whatever your time, however often you meet between the two games. I mean, we did that for a while actually with our crew, Eric.
Yep, I remember that.
I was running the Mech Warrior game and Chris was running the Star Wars game. We basically alternated roughly week to week. Occasionally it'd be like 2 weeks in a row my game, 2 weeks in a row of his game. But in general, we tried to rotate week to week. And that can work pretty well too, actually.
Pretty well, because it was really hard to get sick of one character.
Yeah. So that's another possibility. But as I said, this is all boiling down to someone putting on their big boy pants and running a goddamn game as opposed to the normal game master.
Yeah. And sometimes someone's just got to do this. And you can divvy it up in the troop style game, which is a grand experiment that everyone should try at least once. Even if it does fail miserably like it did when I tried it.
But yeah, I honestly, it's game mastering is not easy. It's mostly that it takes time and effort, but it's not as hard as people think it is.
It's not it's really not as hard as people think it is. Particularly if you're quick on your feet. But yeah, some people just don't enjoy it. I'm one of them.
I,
Um, and I'll happily do it every once in a while, but I could not I cannot sustain an extended campaign.
right, and that's the thing is again I am very forgiving of people who don't enjoy it, but um, as long as you at least give it a shot, you won't know until you try it.
Yeah,
Um,
everyone should try it at least once.
at very least, you'll learn more about actually how the game works,
Yeah,
and that can
seriously,
help
pick
you.
up a module and run that.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. But I mean, so from there, I mean, are there any? What other ideas do you have, Eric, for a group in that situation? I mean, assuming that
yeah,
everyone there has tried running a game and doesn't enjoy it, no one wants to run a game.
um, see, fuck it, put on Tokyo Gore, please, and turn it into a drinking game.
I suppose you could do that.
That does not really help anyone at all.
No, not really.
And even if no one enjoys it, it's sometimes you gotta. Everyone's gonna have to take a hit for the team, and everyone's gonna have to take a turn running. That's the only thing. Everyone's gotta do their part so everyone else can have fun.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean at that point the troop style game is your best solution, and yeah, it's you just gotta do it, guys.
I mean,
Even if
yeah.
everyone hates running a game.
Yeah, I mean, the other things you can do is, I mean, you can see if you can find someone else who might be interested in running a game. Honestly, I
It's
don't think
you
you're
can
going to
always
have that
get
much luck
someone
with
on the
that.
street.
But
You could always shockingly try to expand your circle of friends.
yeah, I mean, there are definite options for that. If your local game store has a bulletin board where you can post things for that, you could try that. A lot of game stores use that. A lot of game stores I know used to have something like that. A little bulletin board you could basically post a note there. You got a group of players looking for a game master for this system. Fire us an email and we could talk about it. Stuff like that.
Right. There are message boards online to do that. I haven't needed to use one for the very fact I refer to it as a message board tells you how long I've had since
Yeah,
I've used it.
yeah. And again, I mean, this is sort of a tricky one for me because I'm the guy who usually ends up game mastering everything. So
Right.
it's admittedly there are times when I'm looking for a game master because I'm tired of running the goddamn game and I want to play. But
Which again is entirely understandable.
uh, thankfully there are people in most of my groups, most of the groups that I game with that are at least willing to run a game for a while.
Right.
Um, other things that you can do. God.
This is one of the great things about MMOs. I mean, nothing can replace the sense of playing an actual tabletop game with your droogs.
Hmm.
The great thing about an MMO is that the computer is your game master.
Basically, yeah.
And the computer is not a very good game master most of the time.
No, really isn't.
But there is someone there to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually joked. I've actually toyed with the idea of getting a bunch of people together in various MMOs and basically trying to treat it as if it was an RPG. Basically, we had a group and we went through and did various quests and such together as a group, as if we were, and basically sort of did, via group chat role play.
Right.
I've toyed with doing it. I've never gotten around to doing it because it's a lot more work than I want to put into it.
It's more work than it sounds.
Um, I've never been a big fan of text-based role-playing. I'm much better.
Yeah, get everyone on friggin' Skype or TeamSpeak or something.
Yeah, that would work better actually. Um, so yeah, you could do that. Oh God, I mean, there are things you can do. I mean, you could all another possibility is there's several sort of RPG-like board games you could try out with elements of role-playing games in them.
Mm.
Uh, old one that's Hero Quest.
Hero Quest and Talisman.
Talisman less so. Uh, because Talisman is more about screwing everybody else in your group over. Because that's the point. You're trying to actually kill everybody else.
Right, right. Warhammer Quest is a good one,
Yeah, Warhammer
although I think
Quest.
it's way out of print now.
Yeah, and there are a couple other ones out there that exist. Yeah, Markiplier's in the chat mentions the D&D adventure board games. I've not tried them, but I've heard good things about them. Um, but there are several board games that cooperative board games that try to replicate that try to sort of get the feel of an RPG. You can play those for a while. If you could find a copy of Hero Quest or Warhammer Quest, those actually are good ones. Clark one in the chat. Our friend Peter Shaw mentions Descent. I don't know much about it, but I've heard good things.
I've never played it myself.
Um, uh,
Um, the new Horus Heresy board game might be good. I don't know. I've never played it. I just know
but
it
yeah,
exists because I've seen
but
it on shelves.
most of the board games which are mostly cooperative with a sort of random board building element could be good for that.
There was one that was pretty good. That whose name I can't remember. I only played it once, but basically you had cards that were basically your character, and you ran around this map killing monsters, and it could either be cooperative or competitive. Um, and as is wont to do with some of the people I play with, there is a lot of betrayal and backstabbing.
Yeah, but I mean, like you could even take like say Space Hulk and
Oh,
turn
Space
that.
Knuckle would be actually be great. A
Yeah,
great one for
basically, you're games like that. You could honestly, most editions of Dungeons and Dragons in the Game Master book have a random dungeon generator, sort of map generation system, and you could really. I've toyed with doing this. Uh, what you could do is you could basically build a bunch of cards with basically map sections on them. Um, the little diagrams of maps and such on them, and then another separate pile of a second pile of encounters, and then a third pile of treasure. And you could basically build a normal D&D party, shuffle up the decks, and then you basically you open the door to the dungeon, and this is the first room. And some of the encounter cards would of course be blank because not every room will have an encounter. And then you flip over the encounter card,
right.
you go, okay, no encounter here, and therefore no treasure, and so on. You go through, and eventually and basically you set some sort of threshold
Ah,
for how far.
Abadi in the chat mentions Midnight Dungeons, which is also way out of print, but was lots of fun.
Right. Okay. I did not know about that one. Actually, no, I did see someone playing that. I just don't know much about it.
I played it, and I hate collectible minis.
Huh. Cool.
It was actually a really fun game. The miniatures were poor, had terrible paint jobs, and it was one of those clicky games. But it was actually lots of fun.
Cool. Cool. But yeah, those are sorts of things that you can sort of and well, that's not what I'm describing really isn't an RPG. It's sort of it'll tide you over until you can find a game master at least. But yeah, like or worst case, bust out some board games for a while, and until you can find someone who's willing to game master with your group. There are a bunch of great board games, a bunch of good cooperative ones you could try out,
Mm.
or not cooperative ones, as the case may be. um, I'm running out of ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. My best advice, if you don't have one, is go and find a DM, and in the meantime, or throw together a troop style game.
Or
Um,
or just have someone
which
put on your bloody big boy pants and at least give it a try.
Yeah, that's assuming everyone has tried it and everyone hates it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And like I said with the troop style games, it's easy to say, a lot harder to do.
Yeah. Or as I said, even if none of you really enjoy it, someone could volunteer to just run a game for a little while. I mean, like
Hmm.
say, I'll run a game for X number of sessions, and from there, and basically put a hard limit on how long you're going to run. Um, and then if someone else will, if they want to you guys want to keep playing, either someone else will step up, or you'll think of something else, hopefully. And Real Planeswalker in the chat does mention if someone is being a game master for the first time, don't be too harsh on them, especially if it's their
Yeah.
first time game mastering. If you're experienced role players, even if someone's an experienced role player and they've never run a game before, you have to have like I mean, by all means, give them constructive criticism occasionally.
Hmm. Well, without the constructive criticism, they're not going to know how to get better.
But
The process of getting better will take longer.
yeah. But you got to
But
let
don't
them
be a
know.
dick about it. Absolutely don't be a dick
Yeah,
about
well,
it.
yeah, the Will Wheaton rule, don't be a dick, always comes up. But as I always say, communication is key, and that's one of it's doubly so in the case if you're working with a new game master.
Hmm.
Someone who's new to game mastering is you guys got to talk. And the game master, if you're new to game mastering, be sure to ask your players for feedback, because otherwise you won't know what they like and don't like. But yeah, Marco Polaris has it spot on. The worst thing a player can do is forget there's a person holding this fragile game together.
Yes.
Be
Well
considered,
point. Well put. Well put.
as Bill and Ted are famous for saying, be excellent to one another, guys. Um, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, there are some other things that we probably could touch on, but I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody will occur to me when we're
I'm a
done.
little brain dead today, man.
But I think that mostly covers what we want to talk about. So from here we can, I forgot to mention at the start of the show, we do generally take questions at the end of the show. We had none via email this week. If you do have questions you want to have answered on the show, you can always email them to us at our email address, surlygrognards@yahoo.com. That's surlygrognards at yahoo.com. If you guys, anybody in the live chat here watching, have any questions, please feel free to ask them right now. We'll try to answer them during the last 5-10 minutes we got left here. Um, Eric, any other thoughts before we get to the questions? Giving the people in the chat time to come up with the questions here. Not that I'm buying time.
I like candy, and candy's going on sale on Thursday.
Mmm. On sale candy. It has very little to do with what we're talking about, but strangely
Has
appealing.
nothing to do with what we're talking about, other than candy is good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess one other thing I could
Yeah,
ask you before, since we're not seeing much in the way of questions right now, but do you have any good gaming Halloween stories, Eric?
gaming. I've never actually gamed on Halloween. Halloween is always a night for either horror movies or putting on a silly costume. Um, and yeah, I've never gamed on Halloween and games around Halloween aren't Halloween themed because everyone's doing their Halloweeny things outside of game.
I've never really done much in the way of Halloween themed anything. I one of these years I would love to like near Halloween with some group of players try play the Ghostbusters RPG, which I've played. It's a lot of fun. My friend Peter Shaw ran a brief sort of basically two adventures using Ghostbusters, and that was a lot of fun. It's a very very silly game. Um,
It was a very, very silly movie.
there's a reason it's a silly game.
Yes.
And it's I would join that mystery, but only if I get to use the Twinkie line. Oh God, I'm just got the Ghostbusters.
That's a big Twinkie.
Yeah. Oh, Ghostbusters. I have to say, I've mentioned this sort of off the show before, but I have a very, very soft spot. Peter says he can see the box from here. I know exactly where my box is. It's in my closet behind me. Uh, so I have a copy of it also. I picked it off eBay pretty cheap, actually. Honestly, guys, if you haven't checked it out, if you can find a copy of it on eBay for cheap, get it. It's hilarious. Um, it's it, it's its own little thing. I mean, part of the game is built-in comedic failure because it's Ghostbusters. There's going to be comedic failure.
Yes.
But thinking about it, Eric, do you remember the Ghostbusters cartoon? Not the real Ghostbusters cartoon specifically, the one titled "The Real Ghostbusters."
Oh, yes, with the Cthulhu episode.
That was one of the best episodes.
Yes, I remember that that relatively well, actually. In fact, I remember my first exposure to Lovecraft was the Cthulhu episode, and thinking that and just dying with laughter at the idea that firecracker, firecracker, sush boom ba would end the world.
My favorite line from that is still though when Peter turns to Egon, Venkman turns to Egon and basically says, "So is this Cthulhu guy anyways?" And Egon says, "Okay, Venkman, do you remember Gozer?" "Yeah." "Okay, Cthulhu makes Gozer look like Little Mary Sunshine." That was one great episode. One of the other really great ones was the Ragnarok flute episode. The flutist who's basically trying to bring about the end of the world.
Holy crap! Someone in chat has it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thank you. You are my hero.
Yeah, thank you, CJ. There are a bunch of episodes of the Real Ghostbusters you can find on YouTube. It's worth checking out. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, there are several episodes. But we actually have a question from the chat. Thank you, Marco Polaris.
Hooray!
Here's a question to pass time. Have you ever had a problem where the DM and the players suddenly realize they're playing to a different tone several sessions in? How have you resolved it if you could?
Yes, and it's usually comedy gold.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a time I've actually had it happen where I'm playing a different tone and the players are playing a different tone. I've had it happen where I've been playing a game where the tone I was setting wasn't one that the players were enjoying, or some players weren't enjoying, and that's usually led to and then basically the campaign wrapping up fairly quickly after that. Uh, as we realize, yeah, this game isn't working out because I'm running the game one way and the players want it a different way, and oftentimes for me it's hard to shift from the tone I'm running in a game to a different one. Um, because I've got an idea for what the campaign's going to feel like, and if the players aren't enjoying what it's feeling like, then I have to rethink things. And usually that means starting up a different game.
The the one time that I can think of where it was really an issue it was an old superhero game from like high school, and I don't even remember what system. The GM really wanted to do like a very like four color Silver Age kind of game, and we all wanted to be Iron Age bastards.
Ah.
And well, the first time I shot someone in the face, it was funny because the GM's face was funny. The look on his face, and in the middle of the monologue, no less.
See, that's just not that's not right, man. That's just not right.
I did it because I thought it was funny.
I know,
and yeah, it's not. Yeah, it was very much like the big like, I have you now, heroes, blah 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 blah, and
bang,
bang. What? I shoot him in the face while he's talking because it's funny.
Yeah, I've been in a game which was sort of the exact opposite. I mentioned before the game my friend Talks ran, where the players we all ended up basically playing sort of more Silver Agey characters in a game that was originally sort of intended to be sort of more Iron Agey, more modern style game, and that actually led to made it actually a very interesting game because it was sort of what happens when you have sort of classic sort of Silver Age characters with Silver Age ethos in a more Iron Age world.
Mm.
And honestly, it was kind of awesome because it actually almost made sort of made at least on my end made my character feel even more heroic. Because I was like we were like the very few like genuinely good guys. It's like yeah, no, we're genuinely trying to help. We're trying not to kill people. It's like, guys, what are you? No, don't. Why are you busting out a minigun on this guy? You beat him up, you tie him up, you give him over to the cops. That's what you do. You save people. And it was actually a really cool game. And the game master Talks did a great job. I will say this right off the bat. He adapted very well. He realized what was happening, and he basically he didn't really change through the ethos of most people around, but the public perception of our characters he actually did a really good job of basically sort of saying the public's going, you know, we kind of miss this kind of hero being around. The cops are like, holy crap, these guys are helpful. They're not denigrating us as our job. They're doing things to help us. What the hell? I mean, one of my personal favorite moments was, after this big sort of awful thing happened. Basically, there was a laboratory where something was stolen. I forget what, and it looked like, basically the cops had no idea how to figure it out. We came in, we looked at it, and we realized, wow, we really can't figure this out. We turned to the cops and said, okay, it probably was supervillains. We can't figure it out from looking at it. We have not gone into contaminate the crime scene. We'll let your CSIs handle this because you guys are better at this than we are. We're superheroes. We punch supervillains in the face. And the cops looked at us like, what? Seriously? You actually just want us to do our job? Yeah. You guys are good at this stuff. We're not.
This is what you guys do. Just point us where you want the punching to happen.
Right. Tell us who to punch. We'll punch them. I mean, one of the characters was a brilliant scientist and could have figured some stuff out, but it's sort of like actually the best corollary to that I can think of is weirdly the a detective character in series of novels by this author Rex Stout, Nero Wolfe, one of my absolute favorite fictional detectives. He's great, but there's a series of things he does. He basically doesn't leave his apartment. He has the narrator of the story, Archie Goodwin, is his go-to guy. He's also a great detective in and of himself. It's just that Nero's a genius. And so he but one of the things he says is there are several times with like looking for physical evidence. And Nero's take on that is why would I waste my time and my employees' times doing this when the police department has an army of people they can set on this?
That's a good point.
This is what they're good at. I'm not going to do that. My good is to take what evidence is found and interpret it better than they do. Looking for individual pieces of hard evidence, that's not what I'm good at. And I think that is sort of applied to that to that Supers game. Is that the police have legions of cops. They've got an army of cops and crime scene investigators and such to go out and do that stuff.
It's true.
But yeah, one more question from the chat here. Dino Thunderlung asks, do you guys know of any good online resources for game masters helping them set up their campaigns? Basically a DMing for dummies type thing.
I do not, unfortunately.
Well, we did cover this somewhat in our GMing 101 episode.
Oh yeah, look up our archives.
We've covered a couple things. GMing 101 was a good episode for that. There was another one that was actually pretty good for new game masters. Let me quickly look this up. Crap, I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, the sandbox versus directed campaigns would be useful to new game master. That was episode 15. The genre episodes would probably be useful. We've covered a bunch of stuff like that, and a lot of good RPG books. Often, the actual rule books will often have some stuff on that. Honestly, there's a great section in the 4th edition DMG for new game masters. It's actually very good for that. Worth checking out. And there are a few books here and there. There was a great book by Robin Laws called Robin's Laws, sort of talking about game mastering, which is fantastic. It's very hard to find now.
Listen Up, You Primitive Screwheads for Cyberpunk 2020 was another great one.
Yep, sure.
Which has a great name.
Yeah.
It's a great game mastering supplement for game mastering for any game. I mean, it's obviously specific to Cyberpunk 2020, but it also has the great title of "Listen Up, You Primitive Screwheads."
But yeah, in terms of other sort of online resources, I suspect there's some good stuff on. You can take a look through. I'm pretty sure there's some stuff on WotC's site in the D&D section. I'm pretty sure they cover some of this. They've got some. If I remember correctly, there's some pretty good articles in Dragon and Dungeon in there.
Yeah, old copies of Dungeon are really good for that stuff.
But yeah, basically, as I said, my best recommendation would be to look for look for. I mean, there are books out there for that exist. Uh, there, hell, there's a there's a Dungeons and Dragons for Dummies book that came out several years ago for third edition. But yeah, Game Mastering for Dummies might actually exist as a book now that I think about it. It wouldn't surprise me.
It does sound like something someone would have done.
But yeah, most rule books for RPGs would have something in them that would be that they usually cover some things about running games. Some of them are better than others. Uh, but yeah, for terms of our advice, yeah, do check out the Game Mastering 101 episode. Any episode where we talk about running games will have some useful advice in there, I think. Atlas might sell, according to Peter Shaw, Atlas might sell a copy of that. Let me check that, actually. Let's see.
You know what? I think there was actually a game mastering for dummies from years and years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago.
Wouldn't surprise me. Here we go. That's not what I wanted. I want to search their site for info. Here we go. I don't know if they have it, but yeah, if you can find a copy of Robin's Laws, it's worth checking out. Here we go. You can get it through C. Jackson Games. It's Robin's Laws. The PDF is $8. It's a great book. The softcover is 10. I will link it here in the chat. You can find. I'll read it off now. It's www.sjgames.com/Robin's Laws, all one word, ROIBNSLAWS, and then / again. Uh, it's one of the best books on game mastering I've ever read. Oh, Clark one posted in the chat there for me. Well done. I can't recommend this book enough. I'm probably going to buy a new copy of it at some point because I can't find mine. And it's a really good book. But I think that actually will cover most of what we're going to talk about today. I think we're a little bit over time. So thanks everybody for
Which
watching.
is shocking because we're worried we were going to be under time.
Yeah, well. At any rate, guys, thanks to everybody in the audience who watched us live. As always, thanks to if you're watching the recording of this, thank you also. You can find previous recordings of this show on my blog, which is mechagm.blogspot.com. Uh, all the episodes of the Surly Grognards you can find there. You can always hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @mechagm. You can also find me on Google Plus and Facebook. Peter Bowman there. You can find Eric's work on the webcomic Boston Arcanum, which is at bostonarcanum.com.
There are
How's that going,
several
by the
new
way?
pages up.
Several new pages up. Pages up. Awesome.
Because we are nothing if not sporadic. We'll go for a month without stuff and they'll put up 10 new pages.
Awesome. And additionally, if you have questions you'd like to answer in a future show, or if you have feedback, or if you've got suggestions for show topics, please feel free to email them to us. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com. That's surlygrognards@yahoo.com. We will not be here next week. We're taking a week off. It's election day, and we figured, we take a week off. The week after that, I think our plan is to do sexism in gaming.
Yep, we still need to chat with our female friends about that
Yes, we do.
and actually research it.
We do. That's why we have 2 weeks, Eric.
Aha!
That's the other reason we're taking a week off. Um, so yeah, that's our plan to talk. That's what we're going to talk about next episode, which will be on
The
the
13th?
November
Doing the math in my
November
head, I
13th.
want to say the 13th.
Yep, 13th.
All right.
So November 13th is the next episode. We will not be here on the 6th. We're taking the week off. It's election night.
Because we're going to be busy voting.
I'll be done.
I'll
voting.
be busy voting.
Yeah, Eric will be busy voting. So thanks, guys, for watching, listening. Hope you all had... I hope you all found this interesting, at very least interesting or helpful or at least entertaining.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Again, thanks, everybody. We'll catch you all in 2 weeks this time. Take care, and we'll see you in the future, guys. Be seeing you.
Later, kids.